Hi guys, welcome to the Bookbinders. Today we're analyzing Kintsugi by Lana Del Rey, and I'm Charlotte.
I'm Sarah, and let's first talk about some of our first impressions of this song. Would you like to go first?
Okay, so when I first listened to this song, I thought it sounded a bit like Lover, the album by Taylor Swift.
Seriously?
Those were the vibes that I got from the way it sounded.
That's very interesting, because Lover is an upbeat album that people...
Yeah.
I mean, despite the fact that Lover is not very lovery, it's
like
Lover.
Afterglow and Cornelia Street sort of melancholy vibes.
Okay, I can see that. But I feel like Cornelia Street and Afterglow, they're very dramatic.
Yeah.
Kintsugi is low-key.
Yeah.
So I think my first impression of Kintsugi is, I wish a different song was 6 minutes long. Like, I literally remember thinking, I wish a different song off the album was 6 minutes long. Peppers, perhaps. But I think I didn't appreciate this song because I didn't understand what Kintsugi was and everything. But I think by the first month into the album release, I listened to Kintsugi and Fingertips again, and I was like, these songs are the best songs off of the album. Some of the best ones. Best Lana Del Rey songs in general, because it's really that good.
Yeah. And another first impression was the title.
The title.
Obviously, it was a lot of her titles, you know what they are when you first see them.
Right.
Or generally, but this one I was like, I don't know what Kintsugi is at all.
I think regarding the title, well, we can kind of get into analysis by starting with the title. I think the moment I heard this song, I was like, let me just Google what Kintsugi means.
Yeah,
or I'm pretty sure either it was me Googling the lyric while Kintsugi, or I remember trying to pull up the lyrics of all the Lana Del Rey songs when it first came out to understand what she was saying, because sometimes it was kind of garbled. I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But I remember Googling it, and the Genius link came up, so it was just like, oh, there's no Google lyrics, but I just went on the Genius lyrics instead. And for that, it just said Kintsugi, Japanese art or whatever, which we'll get into the actual definition momentarily. Anything else you would like to say?
I noticed this is another one of the ones on the album where she only says the title once.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I was like, that's a good point Charlotte keeps making. But I really like her only saying the title of the song once, because it gives that line even more depth and meaning.
Yeah, it draws attention to it.
For sure. And then anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay, so do you want to define Kintsugi?
Yeah, so based on my research, it was a Japanese art form where you pour some sort of metal like gold or silver into the cracks of a broken bowl to highlight the imperfections. So it's a way of visualizing the mends and repairs and healing.
I think a good metaphorical meaning of that, I like everything that you said. That was very straightforward and meaning in the context of pottery. But I think the metaphorical meaning is taking all of your flaws, and by highlighting them, you are making a better... It's like breaking something and then trying to build it back even more beautiful.
Yeah, it treats the breaks that you've experienced in your life as part of your history, not something to hide.
Right. You just said... Did you say something about gold?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Gold. It's it means golden repair.
I think Lana said in an interview once, when someone asked her what Kintsugi was, she said it was taking gold flakes and repairing pottery or vase, whatever you want to call it, via these gold flakes or pieces of gold and silver. I think she also said silver. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that brings us to the first line. There's a certain part that the body can't come back from.
So what did you think about this line?
Well, I mean, based on the rest of the analysis, we can assert that this could be death.
Death, yeah.
Death, or sadness. Starting with death. Death is just, you can't come back from being dead. Despite we saw in Fingertips, I will take your astral body and you can sit and watch TV by my side. You also thought about death, so do you want to go into that?
Yeah, well, I just thought, it says the body can't come back from, even your astral astral entities being able to come back and sit.
Yeah, wisdom is a theory. Well, it's not theory.
Yeah.
It's like a intangible kind of thing, while the body is tangible.
The body is tangible. Like once your body has died and your heart physically stops beating. I mean, they can revive you from that, but like once everything shuts down, then you can't come back from that.
Precisely.
Physically.
I think I also, upon analyzing this song for the first time, because I don't know about you, but I go through it one to like 3 times, and I go through the song, like, looking at the lyrics again and again and again. But upon the first time looking at this, I initially thought like, oh, this could be a really bad part of sadness or trauma, where you feel this like horrible pain, and this can be associated with the person who dies and the person who experiences that loss. So that relationship, it could be talking about either way, which is a great double meaning that I think Lana really loves to put in.
So it can mean both death and or sadness. Like
yes, and or sadness, or recovering from certain losses.
Losses is a good point.
Losses.
Because this song, there's a lot
multiple
about loss.
losses.
Yeah.
And I think that brings us to a few of other things, but let's start with, in 1 year, we've learned the turn of the mouth.
Yeah, so this was very interesting.
What did you think?
So I tried to look for the phrase "turn of the mouth" because it's so curious. Like I've never heard that, and I couldn't find anything, probably because Lana Del Rey made it up. But I think, at least from what I got, is like a smile turning to a frown. Or the other.
That's
or the other
very
way.
interesting, because I like how she used addiction of mouth instead of turn of the words, because whenever I think about the turn of a mouth, which I've heard this phrase quite a lot, like not directly turn of the mouth, but in multiple variations you can hear something similar to turn of the mouth, turn of like personality, turn of words, whatever you want to call it.
Turn of the phrase.
Turn of the phrase.
I've heard turn of the phrase, just never mouth.
So rather than like expressive things, I was thinking like turn of the stuff that one might talk about someone else. So in 1 year we've learned the turn of the mouth. In 1 year, Lana has put out this more vulnerable side of her, and that could induce various other comments that we haven't seen towards Lana before, which might be what she's asserting here.
That's a good point. See, for this one, like I had her talking about death for the whole like paragraph sort of thingy. So this would be like she was not necessarily happy, but just like able to smile, not knowing that death was coming, and then suddenly it arrived in 1 year, and then now she's frowning but symbolizing sadness.
Well, I would like to ask you, she uses the word learned. Who's learning what?
That's a good point.
I think in the context of what I was saying, learned is like something that you gain it's almost extrapolating from like previous previous interactions and actions, and you're able to judge these previous interactions and actions and then learn something from that. So I mean, if you're seeing these changes in people's like view towards you, then you're learning about the turn of the mouth.
Yeah, that's a good point. At least learn, a synonym for learn can be like discover. And a lot of people, when they find out they have like some sort of terminal disease, they're like, I just discovered I had.
Touche.
Whatever.
All right, anything else you want to say about this?
I don't have anything else. No.
Okay.
Anything else you want to say?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
In the depth that... do you want to say it?
Okay, the depth that the chest cavity takes.
All right, where should we start?
Chest cavity. What is a chest cavity to you?
Well, see, there's a scientific meaning.
Yes, yeah.
Do you want to say that? Because I never noted the scientific meaning.
So I looked up the scientific meaning, and it's just like the space in the body that contains the heart, the lungs, and several other vital organs. It's basically the chest cavity.
Right. So what did you assert from that?
So I emphasized the fact that it contains the heart. And so this line would be like referring to how deeply the heart feels and takes the loss of people.
That's an interesting take, because I thought of chest cavity as, well, the depth that the chest cavity takes when you breathe, and when you breathe harder, when you breathe more deeper. I mean, that's kind of what I visualized in my mind, someone breathing very deep and very sorrowful. Like if you're crying intensely, then perhaps you might be breathing more or breathing more intensely because it's news might be unfathomable, or the situation might be unfathomable. So the depth that the chest cavity takes is almost like a depiction of great sadness, a great like either recovery or like outpour of emotions, which we'll see later on.
Yeah. That's an interesting take.
I think both of those takes are very valid because they both kind of symbolize this sadness and like this point where you're just not able to comprehend anything that's going on, and you're like immensely sad.
Yeah, and the wording in this opening is very very odd in a way. Like it's not
interesting. Never thought of that.
It's not like cliched in a way that you immediately understand exactly what she's talking about. Like 3 opening lines, they're very up to interpretation, like a lot of her music.
I agree. It could definitely be up to interpretation. I think I never thought about it being cliched. I just thought of it as like very earnest, hooking lines.
Cliched. It's like it could be cliched, but then it's just off in a way that makes it not.
Perhaps. Okay. Chucky was there for 3 out of 3.
What did you have? I mean,
well,
obviously.
I think the first thing I thought of, which I probably should not be thinking of, is funerals. Like 3 funerals out of 3 funerals. So she was there. Wait, did you not think of that?
Initially, when I heard 3 out of 3, I thought of like 3 trimesters of pregnancy because Chucky had a baby and then
that's very interesting.
Lana didn't. But so what did you think?
Well, I mean, I still stand besides my theory of Chucky was there for 3 out of 3. I think there were a lot of deaths in her family or in her close like vicinity of people, and Chucky being there for 3 out of 3 is she was there for all of the times where there was this loss. Chucky was present. Chucky was able to recover from this pain. She wasn't stuck there. Maybe Chucky, to these people, those people weren't very close to her, or maybe they were, and it was just that Chucky had things in her life that gave her this ability to move on. Her daughter, is she married?
I don't think so.
Well, whoever is keeping her company, well, that could be Lana and her brother as well. Chucky has people to support her.
Yeah, like a support system.
Exactly. And Chucky leads a quite normal life compared to Lana's. So Chucky doesn't have this persona that she's upholding like Lana. What about you?
Yeah, like I said initially, well, should we first define Chucky?
Well, yes, we should mention that Chucky is Lana's younger sister.
Yeah. So first when I heard this, I thought, of course, pregnancy, because Chucky had a baby rather recently, I think only 1 or 2 years ago.
That's a great theory.
Yeah, but then I looked at it more and it didn't really make sense. So now I do think it's 3 deaths or not necessarily funerals, just like deaths in the family. Because, well, actually here in the song The Grants at the beginning of this album, Lana Del Rey talks about like the 3 things she's going to take with her to heaven or whatever it is.
I don't think I've properly listened to The Grants, so I wouldn't be able to make that connection.
But it's like she's going to talk, the 3 things that she's going to take memories of was her uncle's death, Chuck's baby, and then her grandmother's death.
Okay,
so
that's interesting.
But I also think 3 deaths is a good analysis, because I got both 3 deaths and also those 3 things, but I think 3 deaths fits more.
Okay, I was there for the 3rd because I couldn't be there for the one who was closest to me. Why did you start?
Okay, so I think it is 3 deaths. Like after this line, I was like, yeah, this makes sense to be 3 deaths. So she couldn't be there for the one who was closest to her, and I think she means Dave with this line.
I agree. I actually wrote Dave right here, and I mean, in a way, it may not actually be Dave, but it could definitely be Dave. Mm-hmm. And the reason that I say that it may not be Dave is due to the fact that there could be other people who died in Lana's life that we haven't yet uncovered. Mm-hmm. And I think this could also be another death that I theorized, and I actually themed this song. It's very similar to Fingertips, but someone who's very important to Lana might be Lana herself. So the death of Lizzie might have been one of those deaths, the third one. That could have been that third death. And, we know that Dave committed suicide. Well, he had a suicide attempt before he actually died. And that could have been one of those metaphorical deaths which happened before Lana's own rebirth as Lana instead of Lizzie. And I think Lana had to almost be there for that third one. And she says, once again, I was there for the third because I couldn't be there for the one that that was closest to me, and that could be anyone. That could be Dave again.
Yeah, I put Dave question mark because it very well could be Dave. Mm-hmm. The one she was closest to. Another theory that crossed my mind was like her best friend committed suicide.
Right, Summertime Sadness.
Yeah. Also, you make a good point that it could be the death of Lizzie, or it could be the death of Lana. If we are treating this album as like a grand finale.
I think this
it could be the death of like the Lana Del Rey persona going back to Lizzie since she's.
I think this album. Previously I said that Lana may not have a career after this. Like she may be resigning or signing off, bang, kiss, But I think upon listening to this song, and I think by the last track, we might be able to assert something else. We might be able to assert that maybe she will continue in music, but perhaps not as Lana Del Rey, or perhaps as something else. However, we did also, we have to say, yay, because she released Yes to Heaven. So that kind of marks that Lana is still kind of here, and she's still thriving. By the way, Yes to Heaven, epic. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interpretation here.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we move on to the next one?
Yeah. So, But I can't say I run when things get hard.
This line was very confusing. So she's saying that I can't say that I'd run when things get hard. Like, she's not going to run. Mm-hmm. I mean, what does that mean? Because we would think quite the contrary.
Yeah. Since this is like basically proving that this line is false, maybe it's just like she doesn't want to admit it to herself. That's why she can't say it. She doesn't want to admit that she would run when things get hard.
I kind of think that she doesn't want to run, and instead she wants to just be there and be closed off. She doesn't want to necessarily indulge, but she's trying to be present. She's trying to be better. So, I mean, we can see this as an attempt.
Yeah, and she's trying.
I think another theory that could arise from this is running is like physically getting away, but this could also be a nod to suicide. This could be a nod to, perhaps I won't run, perhaps I'll just die right here. So yeah, this line could really be a lot of things. It could be delusional, it could be suicide, it could be anything. Lana, at us. Please tell us.
Yeah. I mean, if you try to put this in the context of the whole lyrics surrounding it, there's like, you could get something, but it's like, like I said, it's very much up to interpretation.
Alright, next line. But it's just that I can't trust myself with my heart.
Well, for this one, I think it's just her being tired of pain.
I just continued this on with the suicide because if she can't trust herself with the heart, if she can't trust herself with her own heart, she's unable to think about herself consciously like she deserves to live anymore, at least. Or like And when things get hard, so once again, as it's getting hard again, she can't trust herself with her heart, and then she resorts back to suicide.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but I've had to let it break a little more.
I found this line very interesting.
Me as well.
Because had to let it break. It's like she's allowing it to break, almost breaking it herself. Because
and had is like, it must break.
Yeah.
Like this is a requirement.
Because but I mean, why is it needed? She doesn't cover why it's needed later. But it's just an interesting line because it alludes to her, like, not only did it have to break, like that's what's necessary to in life, just in general, that's what's needed.
Precisely.
But also that she almost broke it herself.
Right. So she's just saying, but I had to let it break a little more. And I think that also signifies, like, her allowing her heart to be vulnerable. It's like her allowing herself to get into love, but then breaking it off because she knows that you're no good for me, you know?
Yeah.
And we see that in a lot of her music. And I mean, I like this album in a way because a lot of it is not about love. Almost like 40% of it is about actual romantic love, while a lot of the rest of it is platonic platonic love and a lot of pain and sadness. Which makes this album very relatable. And then she goes on with saying, because that's what they say it's for.
So what did you think about this line?
Well, hearts are meant for breaking.
Yeah.
Are they? No, you can insert whatever you want. If hearts are made for breaking, tell us in the comments. But I think it's just trying to say that, like, hearts can be broken. Like, it's not a bad thing for you to be upset over certain things happening. Like, you can be vulnerable, but she's accepting that herself, so she's unable to express emotions, kind of.
Yeah. I said something like sort of similar. The heart is made for breaking or whatever. I think it is like a pretty common turn of phrase, right? Like, I think I've heard that. People saying, like, hearts are made for breaking. But it's one of those figurative language things where it's like it makes it seem much different than it is.
Right, precisely.
Which a lot of figurative language does. But I don't think that the heart is made for breaking per se. I think it's more like it's inevitable that at some point you're going to experience.
That's an interesting take. That's definitely an interesting take.
Yeah, and it's necessary in life to experience some heartbreak and and like almost to save herself. She's broken it herself so that she can heal. So she can
repair it, like
Kintsugi effect. Right. She's to save herself. She's broken her heart and let her heart break, and so she can be golden and healed.
I think that goes into the next line, which is, this is how the light, that's how the light shines in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the next line is, that's how the light shines in. And I think, like, the chorus means different things every single time it's said. Like, it doesn't mean the same thing every single time it's said. So in the context of this, it's like letting the light shine into your heart so you can recover. That's my personal take.
Yeah, I agree. Like, in this context, I also analyze, like, the chorus is different every single time that it happens. And in this context, it's like when your heart breaks, which is inevitable for life, that's how, like, that's how you are able to see the things in life that are so good. Like, if your heart was never broken, you would never be able to see all the happy things you take for granted in a new light and
That's
have
a
them
great
bring
take.
new brightness into your life.
That's a great take. The next line, well, I mean,
like, it basically repeats.
The next line basically repeats, and then, so everyone was there, they were standing and laughing, and I'm on the side with my tears streaming down.
So what did you think for this line?
A lot. Well, let's first note that she says, with my tears streaming down. And that's very different from what we heard in Fingertips, where she's like, I give myself 2 seconds to cry.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And Now, tears are streaming down. And I think this is just... So everyone was there. They were standing and laughing, and I'm on the side with my tears streaming down. I took this metaphorically. I don't know about you. Well, why don't you start?
Well, I took it very literally.
Okay.
So I think we'll probably have different analysis on this one.
So go ahead.
So I took the, this, basically this section of text is like the present day for the third death that she talks about.
Okay.
Which I took to be her grandmother's because I think she died pretty recently.
Yeah,
But
I think I thought about that a little bit too.
But it could be anything, so I just took this in the context of like it's a wake or a funeral or like the after party when everyone's sort of like standing and laughing about the
sharing
life.
memories, perhaps.
Yeah, the life of the person who just died, and like all the good things that they did in their life and all the good memories. Meanwhile, it didn't necessarily hit her harder than most. It's just like she's the person who hasn't given herself more than 2 seconds to cry for so many years.
Precisely.
And so that's why she's having such trouble with this death. It's like it's hitting her so hard now, and she's not able to come back from it, like the first line.
That's an interesting take. I think once again very straightforward, but I still like it. The way I thought of it was, if everyone is there and they were standing and laughing, that means they were, and everyone, that's saying everyone, and Lana was on the side. Lana was not a part of that group. She wasn't standing with them and crying there. She was standing on the side. That means people don't see her. People don't see her pain. People can't recognize the fact that she's there and she's crying. So she's almost invisible, like we heard in A&W. And everyone else is standing and laughing about something else, but she's crying because she still has that pain. She's still stuck there. She's still standing there while everyone else has almost moved on, talking about the memories, talking about the good life, but she's still stuck. And nobody can recognize that she has this pain because she's on the side.
Oh, that's such a good analysis. I like that. The metaphorical. But it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, because I couldn't connect it back to an actual meaning, so I was like, oh, we're going to go metaphorical now.
And it does make a lot of sense, metaphorically.
Okay.
The next line, there's something about the clutch of the wrist. He thought mine was his to carve into his mouth.
Well, let's first talk about
The clutch
of the wrist. So, what do you want to say about that?
So, I didn't take this very metaphorical at all. Like, this entire thing, I took it very straightforward. As in,
I tried to be metaphorical. I ended up being straightforward.
As in, like, in this, someone, I think, either she clutched someone's wrist or her own wrist, or someone clutched her wrist, and like there was something in the intensity and the desperation in the way that the wrist was clutched. It's unclear what, but there was something in that, like I said, intensity that got her to cry or continued to make her feel sad.
Okay, I was thinking about a very specific moment when I heard clutch of the wrist. And that almost was to me like this moment where someone is dying. Like, imagine someone on their deathbed and you're watching them die. I feel like I've kind of seen this scene before, not just in movies, but I feel like I've personally like expressed certain scenes, like not actually, but I mean in writing. But when someone else is on their deathbed and you're kind of watching that, and they clutch your wrist, they're about to tell you something like very important, this life advice that you might have to take with you, or perhaps just a clutch of the wrist, right? And there's something about it. There's a moment that you kind of either feel like once they have told you this life-changing life advice, either you're going to take it and you're going to be like, oh, this is a surreal moment, or you're going to be like, I'm happy that I got to spend this last moment. So there's something about the clutch of the wrist, meaning to her, that something is very upsetting.
Yeah, but it's also in like the bigger picture at that moment. There's something about clutching someone's wrist desperately and giving them that advice that you were talking about that's extremely profound. Okay, the next line?
We've only got... Oh, sorry. He thought mine was to carve into his mouth.
I don't like this line. Just
Me
I'm
neither.
gonna say it. Like the carve into his mouth. I don't
Agreed. This line is like, what even is going on?
It's
Lana, we love you.
It's like the dog and the put into my eyes.
My sorrow.
I agree.
Was
And
something that he.
I mean, I
could
tried to think
project,
about this
and
very
I think she's talking about her
metaphorically.
brother.
There's something,
No,
and
he
I think
thought
siblings.
mine
The thing
was
about carving
siblings
his
when
mouth. So
they
I
try to
thought this
understand
was
your
about
emotion, especially as an older
words.
sibling.
Mhm.
They try
Like,
to understand you,
he
and we know
thought-
that Charlie is her younger brother, but they try to understand your emotion, and then they will like tell everyone about it, like, oh my god, this is going on, that's going on, and listen to this and hear this, and I think that's what is trying to be conveyed here. This is like her brother was trying to just tell everyone this is happening to Lana, like, be chill about it, guys, stop bothering her.
Mhm.
But that almost exacerbated the whole situation.
Yeah, because
So,
when they do that,
yeah,
It's
then
like-
you kind of feel like, oh,
like,
my, god, why did you
Yeah.
tell everyone?
it's like siblings will just go out and
Mhm.
tell your parents like she's crying in the closet.
That could be an approach. Very nice. Anyway,
Siblings. Anyway,
yeah.
that's interesting. This one, I thought it was like someone who she saw was dying. Like he was the dying person,
Mm-hmm.
and then like in that moment he clutches her wrists and like kisses it or like presses it to his
Mhm.
mouth as he's like dying,
Mhm.
if you take it in the dying sense,
Mhm.
but which I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way she said he thought mine was his to carve into his
Mhm.
mouth, like he thought that he had a close enough bond with me that he could do that, but then she felt uncomfortable by it. Just like we all felt uncomfortable with the phrase carve into his mouth. It's grotesque in a way that alludes to her being uncomfortable with him like doing that to her. So he thought he had the right to do that, and then
It's very interesting. I just want to note that regarding what I had previously said before, no, not undermining what you just said wasn't important, but it was great approach, great analysis, because I never thought about it in that way. But regarding her brother, the reason that I asserted it was her brother is because this whole situation where everyone was standing and laughing, and she had her tears streaming down, we later hear that it was the 3rd of March, which is her brother's birthday, so I was assuming this is her brother's birthday party or something like that.
that makes sense.
A gathering for her brother. But anyway, shall we move on to the next line?
Yep. So we've only got hours.
We've only got hours.
It's a very final line.
I agree. I think someone's death, those last
Mm-hmm.
few hours, I think that's what it's talking about.
And there's something. I mean, I've never gone through this very, very closely, but there's something almost calmer about the last few hours. It's like the last few days you're trying to rush and get everything ready and get everyone there to say goodbye and like spend your last few days. But then in the last few hours, it's like now you've given up all hope and all you can do is just try to make the most of the last.
Well, I don't know about you, but the deaths that I've personally, well, the few that, not really technically, but the ones that I think of most of the time are the ones that last, well, you just like figure out about them in like 10 seconds and then they're just gone. So hours could just mean like it feels like hours and it feels like seconds, even though it is seconds or whatever you want it to be, but it might feel like hours, and that's why she might be over exaggerating it, perhaps, even if it is seconds or even if it is days. She might think, oh, it's only hours. And I just can't stop crying because all of the ways when you see someone dying, you see all of your days. I love that line.
I was just gonna say, I love the rhyming in this section.
I agree.
It's almost Dr. Seuss like, but it's also very nice and proper.
I never thought of Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, the ways and days. It's like a very direct line for Lana because she doesn't usually do it. She usually does slant rhymes.
So, and I just can't stop crying because all the ways when you see someone dying, you see all of your days. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this has a very straightforward meaning. Someone's dying, you see them, and like when you're seeing someone dying, which I think connects to whatever we had analyzed previously, you see all of your days, all the days that you still have alive, and I think this is her once again contemplating the suicide attempts and stuff.
Yeah. Well, this one, it's like, I just can't stop crying. I noted here that this is like someone who's only been crying for 2 seconds for her entire life, and then at this point it's just like it. She can't stop now because she's
Precisely.
Unconsciously broken a barrier of some sort, an emotional barrier, I suppose, between like fully letting herself cry, and now she just can't stop. And in this, I thought that when you see all your days, it could mean that you see all the days you have left, but I think because Lana Del Rey thinks about death a lot. We see that reflected in
especially
so
in
much.
this album.
Yeah, especially in this album. We see that reflected in so much music. She's almost every song there's some element of death. So if it's something that only happens when you see someone dying before your eyes, then I think it means all the days you've lived. Like, rather than looking ahead to death, as Lana Del Rey usually does, she's taking a step back and looking at all of the stuff that she's been through.
That's a good point. I think, that once again connects back to the suicide attempts and everything. But you see someone dying and then you see all of your days. And then she precedes that with flash in front of you. Yeah.
It's just like your whole life, everything that you've done, you see it almost in snapshots.
Supercuts.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like everything kind of comes at you really fast. And then you think about it and you're like, oh my god, I don't want to ever experience that. And then that's almost like a feeling of like regret and like hollowness. That's the best way I can describe it. And you think about who would be with you, and then there's Donahue.
This line very much ties back to like, will you be with me, father, sister, brother, from Fingertips. Yeah, Fingertips. Oh, are you okay?
Right, so Donahue, who is one of Lana's boyfriends? Something like that.
Yeah.
Not exactly sure. Because apparently she's engaged to somebody totally else. So.
Wait, really?
Yeah, Lana's like engaged to some other guy. Can't remember his name. Maybe Alex. Matt Healy. No, that's Taylor.
Huh?
Taylor's with Matt Healy.
Wait, actually?
Yeah, she's with Matt Healy and not Joe Alwyn anymore.
I mean, I knew she wasn't with Joel, but I didn't know she was actually
That's horrible.
I thought it was just rumors.
No, she's actually apparently with Matt Healy.
Oh.
Like, they're actually together, which I
don't even know who Matt Healy is.
I was talking to someone else, and they told me she was actually with Matt Healy. Yeah, so I guess that's what that is. But we're gonna get to Taylor. Taylor, you're coming soon.
Yes.
But yeah, so apparently Donahue is one of her boyfriends. Maybe at the time when she was writing this, she thought, oh, Donahue. So yeah, Jack Donahue, was it?
I can't remember his first name.
I think it was Jack or James.
Something like
Jay.
that. They took a picture in front of a jail or something.
What?
There's like a popular picture of her and him in front of a jail, and they crop out her picture and put it random places from that.
Oh, perhaps. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I've been offline for so long. Okay.
But it seems like she's surprised. She's surprised that Donahue is who she pictures when she thinks about who will be with her, or like when you listen to the way she says it in the song, it's like, oh yeah, and then there's Donahue. Like she's so monotone.
It's like a flirty, but like kind of like, oh yeah, then there's Donahue, but like maybe she's considering him as a viable option.
Yeah, he's like maybe
Donahue. And then she goes into Daddy, I Miss Them. We know she's very close with her father, so these endearing terms and like I miss them. She's talking about the people who died.
Yeah, and I think it seems like so small and childlike and innocent. And
Lana's almost 40, so that's insane to think about.
Yeah, but it's like she's been ignoring her feelings and pushing them down so long. Precisely. Only allowing herself 2 seconds to cry, and now it's like she's fully letting her heart break in a way, and that's why it's like almost childish, because she has I'm not gonna say underdeveloped EQ, but that's like, it's like she's just not accustomed to letting her feelings take over her.
Yeah, maybe she's not used to, you know, being emotionally vulnerable, and this is her first attempt at that. And I think a lot of people, especially in our generation, are not very good at being emotionally vulnerable, and we're kind of all learning that at the same time. So this could be a great message to that, and this could also be a great approach to how to deal with that. So yeah, thank you, Lana. And then she says, I'm in the mountains.
Yeah, like Dave.
I was thinking, oh, she's in the mountains for Dave. And then she says, I'm probably running away from all the feelings I get.
From the feelings.
I think that's very straightforward.
Yeah, she's
running away from her feelings.
She's trying not to have her heart break.
Yeah, she doesn't want that emotional outpour. So that's why she's running away from the feelings.
Yeah, especially when you tie to the next line, when I think of all the things about them, it's like remembering them is too painful. That's why she's running.
Precisely. And then, once again, Daddy, I miss them. I'm at the Roadrunner Cafe.
So did you figure out something for the Roadrunner Cafe? Like the actual cafe? Because I couldn't find anything like big.
Me neither. I just assumed that the Roadrunner Cafe was a momentous place for her. Maybe a place that her and her friend went to go eat at. Maybe they were hanging out there. Or just in general, the Roadrunner Cafe might have had a certain food or a certain dish that she ate, and it brought her back to the moments that she spent with a certain person who had passed away.
Yeah. And since, like, I was expecting the Roadrunner Cafe to be, like, something famous in California where, like, movie stars eat, and it was part of some movie. And then I couldn't find anything, really, except, like, small stuff in random states in the middle of America, which mean nothing.
Yeah, basically, so it could just mean that Roadrunner Cafe was a very special place to her and this person. Yeah,
it could mean that. It could also mean, like, the lack of notoriety and potentially even the lack of existence. It's like she's going somewhere private where she won't be found, where she can hide.
Yeah, you can find me in
where no one else will be. Not only can she hide from all of her feelings and thoughts, but she can also hide from, like, the paparazzi and the press and just, like, give herself 2 seconds.
Right.
In a sense.
And then she says, I'm probably running away from the thoughts in the day. Suicide. I thought about that again. I think I thought about suicide far too often in the song.
I could see that.
Anything to note?
I thought of it as in more like in the day when you have things to get accomplished and you have all the things you need to do during the day.
Right, and then you're just frozen.
Yeah, if you think about it, if you think about the thoughts, which could be thoughts of suicide, that's a good point, then you won't be able to do all the things, you'll be frozen.
Right, and then they have things to do with them, but they say. So that kind of ties into what I was saying about suicide, because if these people who all died have stuff to do with her suicide, they're like, oh, enjoy life, enjoy this, enjoy that moment, enjoy that moment. The thoughts in the day that counter that by saying, you're done, go now. Like, and I mean, everyone has different suicidal thoughts. Like, suicide is such a vast kind of thing that comes in many different forms. So these thoughts that she might be having are like counterintuitive almost.
That's a good point. That have things to do with that. In this one, it's almost like she's trying to push them and all the things that they said from her mind.
Right.
Not necessarily that she's trying to embrace the suicidal thoughts, but it's just like in her mind there's a fight for...
I've got a war in my mind.
Yeah, a war, a dominance for between the suicidal thoughts and all the things that her family members told her. And she's like, enjoy life, like you said.
So then she says that's how the light gets in. So she's just saying...
3 times, yeah.
Yeah, that's how the light gets in. I think in this part she's kind of just saying, like, that's how, things kind of... well, that's how these suicide attempts start, but then she remembers the things that all the people said, and then she's like, no, that's the light. That's the light countering all this darkness.
Yeah. And in the context of, like, a war causes a lot of destruction. And especially in your mind, if you're, like, destroying the walls in your mind and all the thoughts between, like, the suicidal thoughts and what you're told, then the light's gonna be able to get in through the cracks of destruction.
Mm-hmm. And then she says, think by the 3rd of March, I was cracked open.
I couldn't figure out what a 3rd of March was. Like, I tried to look, but I couldn't figure it out.
So there's a funny story. I went on Lana Wiki Fandom, which basically has every single day of Lana's life mapped out on every single thing that she did on that day. What? And there was one day, 3rd of March of 2023, and it just said, Charlie Grant's birthday. So then I Googled Charlie Grant. I was like, when is his birthday? 3rd of March.
Oh.
So that goes back to the party that they were having. And I think in this case, it's by the 3rd of March, I was cracked open. That means she let the light in, which kind of changes what the whole meaning of letting the light in was. And I think this whole time I had this mindset, oh, she's trying to get out of the tunnel. Mm-hmm. But instead, getting out of the tunnel is like a one-way thing. But rather, if you're cracking the light in, if you're letting your old persona back, because getting through the tunnel is like getting through a new beginning. It's like going to another beginning, but you're not going back. There's only one way. You're going forward. So letting the light in is letting all of your past traumas come in like a Kintsugi and then make it yourself beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it meant. Like, I was cracked open. I was in touch once again with my emotions, and I felt this pain again.
Yeah, I got a very similar thing. Like, if you think about the process of Kintsugi, you need to crack the bowl and have it experience pain. I mean, obviously the bowl doesn't actually experience pain because it's a bowl. But in the metaphorical sense, you need to experience the pain that breaks you before you can heal better. And in this, I think, whatever happened on the 3rd of March, it was enough to break her in a sort of final way. Not that she's never going to break again. It's just like, this is a massive break.
And then finally the ground was cold, they wouldn't open.
For this line, I thought, like, the ground is cold is the phrase they often use when bodies are buried.
Oh,
or
well,
long buried. So they're like, the ground wasn't even cold and the widow's already moved on. So I think in this sense, it's like the people who she lost have been dead long enough that now she's able to think about them and the pain isn't so bad, and able to like let herself break her heart and then move on.
That's very interesting because I didn't even Google any of these phrases. I've definitely heard the ground was cold, but I wanted to take it my own way. So I really thought of the ground being cold as in there was no movement. There was nothing to do. Like, she was stuck in that tunnel again, but the tunnel wouldn't open for her. So there was no more going out of the tunnel. And you need to find a different way to not get out, but rather make your life better without having to leave that tunnel. Like, still living with that sorrow, still living with that pain, but still making it out and being happy even though you don't have this realm to completely get out of.
Interesting.
And then brought by the sunlight of the spirit to pour into rain.
This line was at first it was a bit confusing.
I agree.
Because it's almost like a run-on sentence, and then the ideas don't really connect.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So let's break it down. Brought by the sunlight of the spirit. So to me, this is just like, the sunlight of the spirit is a spirit I was thinking the spirit of Lizzie. And the like great parts of being Lizzie. And by pouring that into rain, it's bringing in that sadness of that sunshine spirit. Like, it's coming out in a sad form.
That's interesting. I could definitely see that. For this, I thought the spirit was like all the people who have died in her life who gave her that like deathbed wisdom. Deathbed wisdom. Is that a word, deathbed?
It could, yeah, deathbed.
Okay.
I think it should be.
It just sounded really weird. But brought by the sunlight of the spirit. So sunlight, it can symbolize happiness, or like in this song, light is healing and improvement and betterment. and like a brighter future. So this is like all of the advice they gave her brought her this sunlight, and then she pours it into her rain, and like the war going on in her head,
right,
it combats the sadness.
I can definitely see that. And then this and then there's a name for it in Japanese. It's Kintsugi. I think that kind of relies in like the fact that, I mean, so if you're bringing all of this sadness, and if you're trying to like mend it, it's called Kintsugi, because giving that sadness, that sunlight, that is sadness, and putting it together, you're making a compromise. You're living with that pain, but you're still able to move on like Chucky did.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I also got that. Like, because Kintsugi is not about hiding the breaks or completely, like, if you think about it in the war and context, it's not about happiness and brightness and light completely winning over. It's about using this newfound brightness to emphasize the fact that there was so much breakage.
Precisely. And then that goes into, they sing folk songs from the 40s. Well, I mean, let's first assert who they is.
I had it as like the older generation in her family.
I think it's all the people who are just remaining from all those deaths, because we know there's a lot of deaths in her family. So everyone else who's supposed to be close to her, they sing folk songs from the 40s. Even the 14-year-olds knew Froggy came a-courtin'. What do you think?
For this one, like, even the 14-year-olds knew. This shows, like, it's a very big culture. This music is a very big thing in her family. At least in this, the way I took it was like, this is her family.
Yeah.
And in her family, music is a big thing. So, like, this folk song from the 40s, which is an English folk song, it's, like, really old.
Yeah.
Even the teenagers know it, and teenagers don't really know old music.
And I think that kind of goes into the straightforward meaning of the next few lines. How do my blood relatives know all of these songs, but they don't know the songs? And that leads into, I don't know anyone left to know the songs I sing. So all of these people, they really know all of these songs, but the people who cared the most about Lana and her own music have died now.
Yeah.
So there's nobody left to appreciate everything that Lana does and all the music that Lana makes.
I got a very similar thing. Like, she says blood relatives, not her family. Her true family listened and knew the songs that she sang, and these people are just her blood relatives, because they don't care. Maybe they listen to it and support it because they're family with Lana Del Rey.
Blood relatives
with Lana Del Rey, but they don't like actually listen to it because everyone that did.
There's this perception about Lana's music that still persists. And then she doesn't, and I feel like that that last slide is kind of somber. It's like, I don't know anyone left to
know the songs
I sing.
It's like she isn't approved of by her family. Yeah. Because they don't like her kind of music. They like old stuff.
And then that's how the light gets in. So what do we think about that? Because I have zero analysis on that line.
For this one, it's like the pain she feels at being just not approved of by her blood relatives, and not like her entire life's work is not cared about enough that they know what she sings, and yet they know this random old folk song, and that's
it doesn't have much.
It's causing her pain, and that's like the light is getting in from that, so she's seeing. I don't know, maybe she's just seeing the bright side of that.
Perhaps
it is of note that, like, well, maybe it is not of note, but I noted the fact that in this light gets in, she only repeats it twice, whereas usually she does it 3 times. It's almost as if less light is getting in.
Oh, that's interesting. And then she goes into, but Daddy, I miss them. I'm at the Roadrunner Cafe. I'm probably running from the feelings today. So again, that diction change. Was there anything we thought about that?
In this one, I just thought, like, she still misses them.
Mm-hmm.
We see, like, all the times that she said that's how the light gets in,
Right.
and all the times the light has gotten in, she still misses them. Because that's what Kintsugi is, really.
Right.
Is you don't stop having the breaks.
You still have the cracks.
Yeah.
And then I'm in the snow-capped mountains of deserts. What does that mean to you?
Well, I connected it to the before, so probably running from the feelings today in the snow-capped mountains.
Right.
So I took this to mean that, like, not that she is in the mountains, but in the mountains, in these snow-capped mountains in the desert, there are the sad feelings and thoughts of Dave, who died in the mountains. So she's running from the mountains where she thinks about Dave.
Well, I didn't really take it in the context of Dave for this line in specific. But since she's running away from the feelings and she wants to go to the snow-capped mountains of the deserts, that would be a very long climb. So I think that's like a perpetual running. It's like her running forever, which makes her realize, like, I can't get out of this tunnel anymore. I have to let the light in. And then that goes into Daddy, I miss them. I'm in the mountains once again. I'm probably running away. I've been meaning to say. I know she didn't say, like, she didn't use, but I've been meaning to say. She says, I've been meaning to say.
That there's nothing to do except know that this is
how the light gets in. I think that goes back to what I said previously. Now she knows that there's no more getting out of the tunnel, and now you just have to let the light in. Yeah. So, what did you think?
Well, basically that. Like, since I thought before she was running from the mountains, then she goes to the mountains. So it's almost like she seems lost as she's just coming to terms with the fact that missing people and feeling the break is unavoidable in life because people die and hearts break, and you just have to know that this is inevitable, and you have to let the light get through. Right.
Okay. Like cracking, the light gets in.
That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in twice.
Okay, so what do you want to say about this? Because I just took it very straightforward.
I took it also very straightforward. Like, you have to allow yourself to crack.
Right.
And break. So that you can have
I feel like it's just accepting the emotions at this point.
Yeah, accept emotions, and then you can have this golden repair. Which is the next line.
Right.
Then you're golden.
Then you're golden. Which is just like, I feel like it's like you're golden. Like, you're golden again once you've let that light in. Once you've got, and I really took it as like, once you've let Lizzie back in, once you let your past back in, then you're golden. And then just another folk song. But anyway, I try so hard, and that's okay. But that's okay. So what did you think?
Well, first for the then you're golden line. I took this golden repair. It's like healing, and it's not permanent because obviously you can break again. I mean, if you take it in the figurative sense of Kintsugi, it's pottery, so it can break very easily. But this gold, it's not light. When I analyze it, this is the first time she says gold, and the gold is almost like goodness. Yeah. In people, and like the ability to be a caring and good and compassionate human. Precisely. And when you let the light in, and like don't drown yourself in your own sorrow, then you heal and you get this goodness and compassionate nature to you, and show people that you grew and got better with all these breaks, and you just highlight your breaks, and that's how it helps you grow.
And then just another folk song. But anyway, I think Lana's trying to say, like, okay, you don't care about this. Clearly you don't care about it. So it's like, whatever at this point. Like, okay, if it was just another folk song, please listen to the song. Yeah. Like, I wrote it for you, for my family, for these blood relatives. Yeah. And then she says, I try so hard. She tries so hard to convey these emotions. But that's okay. Like, it's all whatever at this point because practically you've ignored it. Yeah.
That's what I got to. They treat it as nothing remarkable, just another song. And but anyway, it's like her trying to push down those feelings and just be like, yeah, it's fine, it's whatever.
Yeah.
And then she tried so hard. It's like she does work so hard.
Yeah, like
on
she
her
worked so
songs.
hard to, you know, like tell you everything that was going on.
Tell the stories.
Yeah, and then you're not recognizing that,
Yeah.
and then she gets a little bit like upset over it. She's like,
She says it's okay, but it's not okay.
yeah, like it's very apathetic.
It's like, yeah, fine, it's okay.
Yeah. And then that's how the light gets in. I mean, that's what she's got to do to become Lizzie again, return back to her past.
Yeah, and that's like this. People don't care, and people aren't. The people are going to continue to not care.
Right.
And you have to just allow that to be a moment where you let the light in.
Okay. That's basically it. So, what are your analysis ratings?
My analysis rating? Well, I think the overall message.
Oh, yeah, like just the analysis rating.
Yeah, no, like, okay, the analysis rating, I would say like 8, maybe?
8?
8? Yeah, I think 8. Because there were some songs that get a lot more figurative and interesting.
I agree.
Analysis.
I think for me, the overall analysis rating of the song is like 7.5. I don't know how much I like the analysis just because it was very, like, specific. I really liked Fingertips and I really liked A&W because it went over a lot of teenage relatable topics and it kind of went over a lot of like these like specific moments that were like really, really attentive to detail. Well, this was more broad and I feel like it could have been taken in a lot of different ways. Also, not to mention, it was really hard to analyze this song.
Yeah. And it doesn't have like a full narrative.
Yeah.
Like with A&W, you get this like beautiful timeline, whereas this one it's more like
all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you're golden and then you get broken again.
Yeah. I mean, I really liked some parts of the analysis here, but it kind of went all over the place.
Yeah, there's like 2 different things almost happening. At least 2, probably more.
Okay, overall rating for this song.
Overall, I would say another 8. Like, is it my favorite on this album? Definitely not, but I also really like it in terms of both sounds and analysis.
I agree. I think I would actually give this song an 8 as well. Maybe an 8.2. I like it a little bit more than just an 8. It might change. A lot of my ratings fluctuate.
Yeah, based on the day. Like,
yeah. I think today I'm feeling an 8.2 maybe. So yeah, that's Kintsugi. That's all we have for today. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Don't always keep overthinking.
Yes, always overthink and have a good day. Thank you, Lana. Thank you for listening. Farewell.